Hi, welcome. Thank you for continuing on this journey. Even with the daily reminders of heat waves, of record temperatures, of storms and high winds, of statistics and weather issues all over the globe, even in the midst of all of that, I hope that you have been able to take some pleasure in the summer days that are, in Cleveland at least, beautifully upon us. I probably reiterate too often how much I love the light and length of summer days. I especially love the sense of freedom and expansiveness that the long days provide. Errands and activities I would not think of doing at 7 or 7:30 in the evening during the winter are just a normal part of a summer day. Part of the reason that I am thinking about the beauty of nature and our surroundings is that I heard a phrase this week that I want to share with you. A psychologist was talking about how quickly a person can feel that they are having a bad day. One negative encounter, a criticism from one's boss or coworker, an argument with a family member or friend, an offhand comment, a forgotten item, a clumsy mishap, any number of things can set us off. And a combination of buildup of seemingly negative experiences can seem lethal. And yet, he pointed out, in the course of a very bad day, there might be redeemable moments we hardly notice because we are so overwhelmed by the feelings and mindset created by the negative experiences. A passing smile, a kind word, a shared cup of coffee, a pleasant lunch break, a spontaneous exchange with a stranger happen all the time to all of us. But if we are in a foul mood, they go by unnoticed. This is where we make a mistake, according to the psychologist. Such experiences have the potential to be, in his words, day-making moments. In other words, they can make our day. Day-making moments. I have a colleague, Rabbi Zachary Shapiro of Temple Akiva of Culver City, which is Los Angeles, who publishes a weekly article for his congregation entitled A Moment in Time. In it, he weekly reflects on one moment during that week that afforded him an unexpected insight or reflection or understanding or appreciation that allowed him to look at the world or a situation or a dilemma differently than he otherwise would have. I have quoted him from time to time as I joined his distribution list at some point in the not so distant past. As I think about it now, his weekly column is a testament to day-making moments. I am also reminded of a book entitled Blink. Perhaps you may have seen it. It's rather short. It made something of a splash when it was published a few years ago. If I remember correctly, the premise of the book is that we all, and most often involuntarily, register in a blink of an eye the substance of a situation or the nature of an individual we've never met before. It doesn't always happen, but it can. And when it does, it can be quite accurate. It can be borne out by subsequent experience. To my mind, that can be another example of how a moment, a day-making moment, can change everything. Most day-making moments, however, are small, seemingly insignificant and easily missed experiences. We might even enjoy such a moment during our break to breathe. It's not something to try for or with which to be burdened, but only to be open to whatever happens during our moments of focused breathing and voluntary retreat from the ongoing stresses and expectations of our day. So let us take our meditative positions with our feet firmly planted on the floor, our backs erect, but still with some comfort and ease, and with our bodies just aligned in a way that will allow us to go through from the inside, some from the outside, just to release those places that like to remind us that they are here. So let us meet them, let us greet them with gentleness and kindness, and invite the stresses to depart. And they will most likely return, but they are invited to depart at this moment. And to help them, we might twirl our necks. Oh. We might release our jaws. We might yawn a bit. Always a good relaxer. Always a good relaxer. We might scrunch our shoulders up to our ears and let them drop again. We might release our tummies. We tend to hold them very tightly. We might flap our elbows, rotate our wrists, wiggle our fingers. Lay our hands gently in our laps, with the palms facing upwards to the ceiling. And we might just shift a bit in our seats to release any unnecessary holdings, unnecessary stresses. Release our thighs, our knees. Sometimes it helps just to massage gently also. We might rotate our ankles as we did our wrists, wiggle our toes. And then let's take our deep breath, filling up. Filling up deeply and feeling the air. Feeling it go inside of us, of something we never do. We breathe all day long, but we never stop and pay attention to our breathing. The only purpose really in this exercise in this practice, is to focus on something that holds our attention, that is happening without us, really. We don't have to do anything except focus and allow our bodies to release and to inhale. And then let's follow that same breath as it exhales, as it leaves our bodies. Just these few breaths can create a day-making moment, because they allow us to disengage. They allow us to disengage, to focus elsewhere. And then eventually to return to our day, very possibly in a somewhat different mood than we left it. This is the practice, just to focus and to stay with that breath as it travels inside, as it touches any number of our organs, our spaces, whatever we might imagine. And then it leaves. Although it has faded a bit from this week's news, I, with so many others, was horrified and saddened by the recent vote in the Knesset to pass judicial reform in Israel, a move that weakens the power of the Israeli Supreme Court. Having brought him to your attention, I share an excerpt from Rabbi Zachary Shapiro's Moment in Time column of this week, in which he writes, "When I stand with Israel, it doesn't mean I stand with the current government. And remember, the government will change. It means that I stand with those who care about Israeli democracy. I stand for those whose voices are in jeopardy. And I stand by those who continue to sing our anthem of hope. I care about being a free people in the democratic land of Israel. I care about being a thinking people in the creative land of Israel. I care about being a loving people in the peaceful land of Israel. I care about being a dreaming people in the fruitful land of Israel. And I care about being a visionary people in the thoughtful land of Israel. In this moment in time, we can't turn away. Let's support those who care as we do." I had an experience this week that I expect and hope many of you had as well, or will have. I saw the movie Oppenheimer. Even if you have not seen it yet, I don't think there is anything to spoil by talking about it. The story is well known and has been reviewed in virtually all of the media. The power of the film lies in the experience of it, and no description of it can duplicate or approach that unique actuality. I was deeply moved by several things in the movie. For one, the portrayal of Princeton University as the institution that sought to gather and did in fact bring together the finest mathematical and scientific minds of the early and mid 20th century. The second, the sheer genius and humanity that was represented by a conversation between Albert Einstein and Robert Oppenheimer that happened at Princeton, or is at least set in by the movie at Princeton. Number three, the reminder of how instrumental is the military as the motivator for technological change and advancement in this country. One has only to think of how World War I ushered in the era of aviation, how the Second World War brought quantum leaps of advancement in the understanding and unleashing of the atom, how the Gulf War brought us GPS, to name just a few of the innovations spearheaded, funded, and developed at the behest of the military for military needs and goals. Number 4, the race to develop the atom bomb and the profound sense of dread that accompanied the victory of doing so. Number 5, these are just a few of the impressions that remained with me at the film's conclusion. But perhaps most devastating of all was how Joe McCarthy and his henchmen in the House Committee on Un-American Activities in the early 1950s attacked and vilified Oppenheimer. We know it was a communist witch hunt. We know it was virulently anti-Semitic. But what jumped out at me in its uncanny projection of so many of today's themes was its anti-rational, anti-scientific, and anti-intellectual focus, all of which were poorly disguised as a communist roundup. Let me say that once again. It uncannily projected so many of today's themes in its anti-rational, anti-scientific, and anti-intellectual focus, all of which were disguised as a communist roundup. There is something profoundly troubling and disturbing about a country that turns on its scientists and intellectuals, that advocates censorship and book banning, politicized curriculums, and whitewashed history books. Literally, whitewashed history books. Number 6, the movie Oppenheimer asks far more questions than we can comfortably answer. But our very existence depends on getting the answers right. Sometimes we have to breathe the reality we are living. So let us take another break to breathe in this moment, in this possibly day-making moment. I cannot imagine that the world was ever a simple place. But some of the complexities that we are currently facing it's not that they were born during the era represented by that movie, but they certainly were exposed during World War II and its aftermath. Somehow we have to learn to live in complexity, in the midst of complexity, not to be defeated by its difficulties and sometimes seemingly hopelessness, and not to look away in our wish to be protected from all that looms ahead. I believe this practice can help us do that. It says the only moment that exists is right now. So let us live fully in this moment. We have it. It is part of us. Let us not squander it away. And it's not that we are running from the responsibilities that the world presents to us. On the contrary, we are making it more possible to face those responsibilities, but to do so fully. And with our entire minds and hearts engaged. Let each breath be a way to be gentle with yourself. To hold yourself with compassion and with understanding. By way of conclusion, and as a wonderful evocation of a day-making moment, I thought this most famous poem by William Wordsworth is quite appropriate. And please continue with your breathing practice as I read and at the conclusion and beyond. I wandered, lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft, when on my couch I lie in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. I hope that you will have moments this week of dancing with the daffodils. And if not the daffodils, because I think they may be long gone at this point, some of the other magnificent flowers that are blooming in this fullness of summer. See you next time. God bless.